Douglas Weaver, St. Petersburg Police Department.
Sergeant Karl Lounge, St. Pete Police Department.
Please tell us about the incident at the Lacey House.
The incident started with the Marshal Service and St. Petersburg police officers looking for a fugitive that had been on the run for several months with federal and state warrants. A task force went to the house to try to find him, talk to his wife. She became evasive about where he could be, enough that rose the suspicion of the detectives to question her further. After further questioning, she led on that he was up in the attic. A St. Pete Police K-9 unit was called to the scene. They searched the house, then they searched the attic. Upon searching the attic, the K-9 officer found the defendant in the attic, challenged him. Him, by himself, not with his K-9, and the marshal confronted the suspect. He was somewhat compliant with their orders, but would not fully show his hands, giving an excuse that he was unable to. When he got close enough to the officer, Officer Yazowitz went to arrest him and cuff him with Marshal Lay covering him. At that point, the defendant produced a firearm and shot our K-9 officer. Marshal Lay attempted to transition from a taser to his handgun and was also shot by the defendant, at which time he fell through the attic opening. At that point, the defendant started shooting at officers through the ceiling. Officer Down was called for. More police officers started around. I had been there from the beginning. I had been a perimeter unit around the house just in case he ran. That's when Sergeant Lounge arrived, and I'll let him continue the story from that point.
Yeah, I'm a midnight sergeant, so I'm not even in the same district, but when they put out for our agency, it's a 1024, which is Officer Down emergency call. They put the call out. I happen to have a AR-15 rifle as well as a ballistic shield in my car. So I responded to the emergency call, as did many other folks. Repeated calls were for ballistic shields. They were able to do kind of a security perimeter, close perimeter around the house. No one was trying to make entry. They were waiting on a shield. As I arrived in the area, I obtained a shield, obtained my rifle. We ran up. We ended up coming in through the backyard of the residence, breaking down a fence. As soon as I came through the yard, I looked to my right, which was the back, southeast corner of the residence, and Doug and a sergeant of ours, Tom Batinger, was there behind cover. We made a beeline to them, and we really didn't, at that point, training kicked in. Doug's been a SWAT team instructor for years. I've been a rapid response instructor for years. Tom Batinger's been a rapid response and shield instructor. We met up in a matter of less than a minute. It was, let's move in. Doug had an AR-15, I had an AR-15, Tom had our ballistic shield, and we knew there were, you gotta understand, we didn't really know exactly what was going on. We knew there was officers down inside the house, and we knew possibly a gunman in the attic. That was pretty much the limited information we had. We went ahead and made entry into the house, went in through the kitchen area, entered into an open living room area. They tactfully turned to the left, cleared a bedroom. I turned to the right, and I was kind of looking at the living room, and where it dead ended, it was a dead end hall, where it's a bedroom, a bathroom, and an open attic opening. A lot of bullet holes in the ceiling, what would have been fragments or tile fragments on the floor. I held a position. Doug and Tom met back up with me. I held where I was at, and Tom Batinger put the shield over his head to protect himself from the attic opening. That's when they passed the attic opening. About the time they crossed past the opening, there was a first volley of gunfire. Tom got struck. Doug and I returned gunfire. Then he kind of quelled the shots for a brief period of time.
I saw that Sergeant Batinger, actually, I watched him get shot right before I started returning fire, where I saw the round come out of the attic entry. I told the Sergeant Batinger to get out of the house. I knew he'd been shot. He refused. He said he saw where he saw Officer Yazowitz up in the attic. He says, "I see his boot, come get him." At his direction, I moved, passed off my AR-15 to Sergeant Lounge. Then I used my handgun, clear the attic as best I could. Went to reach for the boot, couldn't get it, so I brought over a ladder, started going up in the attic, trying to get Officer Yazowitz out of the attic. Unbeknownst to us at the time, the defendant had tied him up into the attic, making it virtually impossible for one person to pull him down. I attempted to pull him down. I couldn't. I moved him about a foot. I started calling for help, someone to help me, because I was precarious on this ladder. During that, the defendant opened fire again, struck me in the hand, and which caused me to lose my balance, and I fell off the ladder. While laying on the ground in a moment of zen, for lack of a better term, I saw that Sergeant Baitinger was down. I looked into the bathroom. I saw Marshal Lay, and I saw Officer McClintock in the bathroom. Realizing I couldn't get up through the attic, Sergeant Lounge was continuing to engage the guy in battle. I moved into the bathroom. I asked the marshal where he'd been shot, which he said the groin. We had recently lost an officer being shot in the groin, so I felt this was probably a little bit more important for me to get him out. I broke a window. McClintock exited the bathroom. I assisted the marshal, got him up, got him out the window, and passed him off to the officers on the outside of the house. I then went back to try to go get to Sergeant Baitinger. I began to scan the attic again, and I did a tactical maneuver to see if the defendant was watching, or if we had, in a sense, eliminated that threat from all the fire. To which point he shot at me again, by the grace of God, narrowly missing me. I realized I wasn't going to be able to get to Sergeant Baitinger that way. I exited the bathroom. I came back around to the bedroom. I busted out a window. I made entry back into the bedroom where Sergeant Baitinger had fallen. I tried to move over to pick him up. I called to the defendant, "Hey, I just want to get my buddy. I don't mean no harm," whatever it took. As I picked up Sergeant Baitinger, the guy started shooting at us again, narrowly missing me again. I saw a TV cabinet. I knocked it over, which actually blocked his view. Every time he would shoot, though, Sergeant Lounge was shooting back.
So it was real interesting what actually happened. I mean, the team, for all intents and purposes, got separated, and with Tom getting mortally wounded. He was in a bedroom. Doug and I are separated now, and obviously we couldn't communicate during this. This is all evolved over about 10 minutes. I think if you listen to the tapes, it wasn't a brief period of time. Actually, it was pretty prolonged, about 10 minutes. But as Doug said, he was shooting at sound. So when he heard us in the living room, that's when he fired at us. When Doug got separated from me, and he's in the bathroom with Tim McClintock and Marshal Lay, when they broke the window, that's when he would fire. So that's when I would fire, kind of call the shots. When Doug ended up going back around to the bedroom, because he knew where Tom was, he knew he had to get Tom. During that same time frame, I was in the living room. I know at one point I did a reload, so I'd fired quite a few rounds. I called out to Tom, not knowing his status. When I called out to him, again, we get more bullet holes coming through the ceiling, so I'm engaging him again. But as luck would have it, if you can add luck to this, Doug's breaking out the window to go into Tom at that point. So while I'm engaging him in the living room, Doug's breaking the window, he jumps in, and very strange what happened next. Doug's in the bedroom, and he said he knocked over the cabinet. Of course, that blocks the view, and we're only 30 feet away, maybe. But the door is now blocked with a cabinet, and of course I can't cross under the attic opening. I hear him calling for help because he's now by himself in the bedroom trying to pull Tom. Tom's not a large man, but he's obviously mortally wounded and it'd be hard to move. Well, he's calling for help. As he's calling for help, I end up thinking, yeah, I need to get to him. So I think I gave gunfire one more time, took his rifle, went outside the house, went around the house, and back to the window where he was at, and then provided some more cover while Doug was actually able to get him to the window, and we had some more officers come to help get Tom out. So it was very unique. I don't think you could ever plan for anything like this. You couldn't really plan tactically. I think a lot of luck came into play, without a doubt. Not so sure why we get spared, why the other two lose their lives. We were able to get 2 others out of the house, so that was a success.
I ended up getting Tom to the window where Lounge, other officers were waiting outside, got him out. I exited the house at that time, realizing that I had no backup at the time, no one was else in the house. And this is where the story continues to get longer. because we still had Officer Yazowitz up in the attic, and we still had a suspect that was still shooting at us. I exited the house after saying a few kind words to the defendant. The SWAT team had formed up. I advised I would lead the entry team in. Officer Goodrow had acquired some heavy equipment to block the front of the house, which gave us a place to move up to get some cover before we entered the house.
He commandeered a very large dump truck, and
good.
later commandeered a front-end loader from a construction site right down the road.
But so I brought in a rescue team. We filled the house with gas up in the attic. We made entry very quietly. However, with all the stuff on the ground, as we walked, we kept breaking glass. And I guess at some point he kind of figured where we were at. And once again, I don't know how, but he started shooting at now the rescue team. He put bullets between the lead shield guys, me, another shield guy. I don't know how we did not get hit. We all returned fire up into the attic. We decided, I said this is a bad situation. The gas wasn't having the effect I expected. We began to exit the house. As we did that, I stopped Officer Herring at the door, who was like, "Why?" I said, "Just hang on." I looked through the bullet holes. I saw where he had shot back at us, and I just began to fill that area of the house with 223 rounds from AR-15. After I had depleted all the rounds I had, we exited the house. More gas was put into the house. Reorganized an entry team. We went back into the house. We fired up into the attic. No return fire came back at us. I felt that, I was praying. We had eliminated the threat. Officer Deary, Officer Gerardo, who were the rescue element, went to the attic. Officer Deary very heroically got on the back of Officer Gerardo, got up into the attic, and began to pull Officer Yazowitz out of the attic. Came on Officer Yazowitz. He had been tied up in the attic. He actually ended up having to push Yazowitz back into the attic to put him in a better position to remove him and bring down most of the ventilation for the air conditioning. During this, the team would hear things moving because he was tearing down the insulation. So we would hear movement. We would shoot in that area. So it was a very chaotic time. Deary had no idea who was shooting. So he was up in that attic. And I love saying this because it shows you the kind of man Deary is. And I wish he was here because this was very brave what he did. What he did is he wrapped Officer Yazowitz's leg, his pant leg, around his hand. And Deary's a very big gentleman. And his thought at the time was that if I get shot, I will fall and I will bring Yazowitz out of the attic, and he will be able to be rescued, and no one else on the team will have to be injured or put in harm's way. Very heroic thought that, placing himself in complete harm's way with the thought of making sure the rest of the team was not put in the same position. Fortunately, he was able to get him out of the attic. They removed Officer Yazowitz. It was very difficult because he was tied in that. We were able to exit the house at the same time. We were still continuing hearing noise in the attic. We fired up into the attic. We removed ourselves from there, realizing now that the defendant, we had no reason to go back in that house, and it was a death trap. That's when Officer Goodrow, who had commandeered the front end loader, was given permission to go ahead and remove the roof. Got it?
No, I can't remove the roof. I think their intention was raise the roof to be able to see in. In all reality, he pretty much tore down half the house. And at a certain point during that, a lot of the interior portions collapsed. They let another entry team in and found the suspect in this dead inside. It was a very chaotic time, I think, that's what you said.
What was it like to be there to honor the officers that you lost from the department?
I'll use your word as honored. I'm very honored. Unfortunately, we had lost a third member of our agency 28 days later who happened to work for me. So this vigil is coming up here was very important to me. What the Law Enforcement Memorial Fund's done for us and allowed us to experience it in the way we did, sitting in the VIP seats and being so close to it. It was very good, very I say it was honorable. That's you use one of your own words.
I feel doing this for me, it allows me to remind everybody of Officer Yazowitz and Officer Batinger's, Sergeant Batinger's supreme sacrifice and what they did. They were both doing their job. In my opinion, Sergeant Batinger went way and far above beyond doing what he should have done in that situation, which most likely led to him being shot and killed. And that's why I like to do this. I like it to be known about their bravery, and to let know that Dave Crawford, who died later on, was also an honorable officer, and that they are losses to the city and to the community.
How does it feel to have a national memorial that honors fallen law enforcement officers?
Exceptional. I hadn't had the opportunity to come up here. I've been to, as I said, Florida State Memorial. Always been honored to go there. When we first walked through this memorial, I mean, it was breathless. Chills. Maybe half from being involved, but I think what struck me is the vast number of law enforcement officers on the wall. To be able to see the number just from this year, just in one section between where Tom Batinger is at one end and Dave Crawford is at the other end, and all the names in between, was almost shocking to me, even though I know the numbers.